Yeah, well, my name's Richard Wehrs. I'm originally from southeastern Minnesota. Lived much of my life there. Went to community college and eventually to Concordia College in St. Paul. And it was there that I kind of encountered art. I didn't take any art in high school. Kind of remarkably, I hung out in the art department a lot. A lot of my friends took art classes, but my schedule was full of other things. I finally took my very first formal art class the spring quarter of my junior year of college, and by the next fall I was an art major. It ended up costing me a second senior year of college, but it just flipped a switch in me. I think that I'm self-aware enough to understand that being the second born of a family of 6 kids has always shaped me to be affirmation driven, attention driven, for better or for worse. And the affirmation I got through my artwork and my art teachers must have been really important to me. I know what little chemicals it was releasing in my brain that led me down the path to eventually complete my art major, but then also go to grad school, which I did at Southern Illinois University in Edwardsville, a school I'd really not even heard of. I wasn't paying much attention to secondary or post-college programs, but it was recommended to me, and when I visited SIUE and discovered what a dynamic and exciting program it was, it seemed like a great place for me to be, a good fit. I was kind of an odd bird there in that I was a sculptor where the majority of students were potters. I think at a certain period in time, this was in the 90s for me, but prior to that, the 70s and 80s, pottery was more typically, what you'd find in a college program. But I was given the latitude by all means to carry off in whatever direction I want to. I started making my first, I want to say masks because that's what the popular word that people use, but they're really not masks, they're faces and figures. Masks have a certain function and use that my pieces don't have. That was in grad school, or rather preparing for applying to grad school, put a portfolio together. And I really enjoyed how I found myself interacting with them. A pivotal moment for me was when I was at the Museum of Science and Industry some years ago. Golly, must have been in the mid-80s. And they had a little interactive exhibit there where you could push a button and it would multiply the number of pixels on a screen. It started out with just 4 squares of color. And every time you press it, it would double. So enhance the resolution by 2. And you'd press it again. But the challenge was, first of all, to try to determine what the image was. But secondly, to also try to perceive what kind of emotional content might be in that image. So didn't know what the image was going to be, started clicking, and as soon as, or maybe even prior to recognizing the fact that it was a face, somehow already in one's mind was registering that there's an emotional content in there. And the researchers who had put this exhibit together had proposed that it's an innate ability, maybe in infants already, as a matter of survival, to be able to read the emotional content in the faces that we confront. And obviously we're doing it all the time, whether consciously or subconsciously, or both. You're going down the street, you see somebody walking toward you, whether it registers in your mind as an active conscious thing or not, you are scanning that person for some sign of whether you need to be concerned. Or is this an affable, happy person? Whatever the case may be. It's a fight and flight preparation step. Well, that really enthralled me. I thought, wow. And it suddenly made a couple of things make a lot more sense. One is the phenomenon of pareidolia, which you may be acquainted with. It's a human hardwired ability or tendency to perceive faces, particularly in things where there aren't really faces. So you're looking at the clouds and you're seeing a dragon, or you're looking at the tiles in a bathroom floor and somehow that pattern or randomness, your brain is searching for something. Oh, there's a face there. Faces particularly. You can go on Instagram and just search the word pareidolia, and there are a whole bunch of accounts that are dedicated just to that concept. And they have lots and lots of images that have faces, some of them that are pretty easy to see, cartoonish and so on, and others that are more abstract. Abstract is the other thing that I want to mention, is that abstract painting invites us to imagine what's going on there. We don't have any choice but be led into that exchange with a painting or sculpture. What's going on here? Our brain just absolutely wants to put it into some kind of category so we can understand it. Whether it's to move on or analyze it further, whatever the case may be. So the very first faces that I made out of clay at the University of Minnesota as kind of a post-college special student preparing to apply to grad school, I made faces that were very abstract, and then I would invite people to look at them and say, so what do you see here? Well, here's the eyes, and here's the mouth. And then somebody else would say, well, no, I think that was the nose that you were pointing at for a mouth. And it underscored for me the power of this thing that goes on in our heads. And so I made those abstract faces for quite a while. Gradually, I moved away from the abstract into the more recognizable. Whereas now, I really don't make abstract faces so much as I want to tell stories. You know, one of the greatest gifts I received from grad school was taking a series of classes in non-Western art. Used to be, it would be called primitive art, but we don't use that term. It's wildly wrong. But indigenous cultures that created art. And I was always fascinated that people from wildly divergent geographies and even eras of time came to the same conclusions about the role of art objects in their rituals and so on. And part of what was interesting to me, in addition, is the commonalities that they came to, the convergence of notions of how we should interpret the common human experience, life, death, sickness, transitions from one part of one's age to another. I took all these classes. They became an obsession for me. And to find out that people in Oceania, in these South Pacific islands, came to the same notions about the value of preserving ancestral bones within the community as cultures in sub-Saharan Africa. And I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. It goes on and on and on. The themes that we find that are common across the board, all of that. I know that we all carry in us our own experience of the common human experience, our own interpretation of it. It lands us in different spots. I think one of the things that we have in common is that we develop our own systems for how we accommodate the great questions that aren't answered by what we can experience. And that's an important part of of what I'm doing. I'm poking at some of those themes in some of the pieces that I've made. Mortality, particularly, the challenges of raising children, occasionally loss. I just made a piece that's not in this show, but has a kind of an alien-looking woman or female holding a screaming tantrum, in the midst of the tantrum, little child like Swan. And the title is that this was not the first, nor would it be the last time that she second-guessed her decision to bear offspring, produce offspring. So I'm poking at those kinds of things all the time. And I think that's one of the things maybe that makes my work approachable for people, is that they recognize some little bit of themselves, some experience that they've had, some memory of childhood, whatever it might be. There's also kind of I hate to say cartoonish, but maybe cartoonish in its approachability. This isn't super sophisticated kind of imagery that I'm doing in terms of abstraction, or I've not thought about that.
But you know, you think of the parallel I think of is Goya, where he has these grotesqueries which reveal truths, you know, and the work has those harbingers of playfulness and mirth that allow us to release ourselves and then find ourselves caught, you know.
That's nice. Yeah, that's right. I know that there are pieces that I've made that cause people to chuckle and then wince, saying, oh, yeah, that's right. There are some themes that maybe people walk into kind of unwittingly and find themselves with their noses rubbed in. Mortality, for example. Oh crap, didn't mean to go there. Yeah. Regardless of the theme of the piece that I'm working on, I find myself all the time returning to the fundamentals. Does the nose go here or does it go here? Because there's 3D composition requirements, you know. It doesn't belong there. Maybe it would look cute there, but it doesn't work.
Yeah.
My wife and I went to Italy earlier this year for a once-in-a-lifetime 19-day trip, and it was fantastic. I have to say that the things that are at work at the base of the design of the great masterpieces you see at the Vatican museums, for example, are no different from the things that are at the base of successful work of any kind, you know. The subject matter may be different, but I think that there's something profoundly, for lack of a better word, sacred about when those elements come together in the way that creates a genuine harmony and resonance. I mean, it doesn't matter the subject matter, it's just glorious. You know, when a chord is played right, or when all the instruments in the orchestra are in tune with each other, there it is. And it's unlike anything else.